He was a man with many faces, a man who proclaimed that his life was his message. He was a simple man clad in a hand-woven dhoti. He believed that the greatest weapon is one's own character.
He had no armies to command, yet the mightiest empire of all time has no match for his determined leadership, clear vision and strength of character.
True, Gandhi was the greatest leader of modern India. Yet, to millions of people across the world, he was much more than that. To them, he was a saint whose values will have everlasting relevance. It's no wonder that the whole world came to worship him as a great soul, Mahatma. His long journey towards truth started in this house in Porbandar on 2nd October 1869. He was born as the fourth child of Karamchand Gandhi and Putlibai.
As a child, Mohandas was described as restless as Mercury, either roaming about or playing. The Indian classics, especially the stories of Shravana and King Harishchandra, had a great impact on him in his childhood.
In 1874, Gandhi's father Karamchand left Porbandar for a smaller state of Rajkot. Gandhiji's life as a student began at the age of 9 at the local school in Rajkot, near his home, where he studied the basics of mathematics, history, geography, and the Gujarati language. At age 11, he joined high school in Rajkot.
As a student, Gandhi did not show any exceptional merit. He was an average student, won some prizes, but was always a shy and tongue-tied student with no interest in games.
There are a lot of interesting and inspiring stories about Gandhi's school life. One of the stories which touched me most is about his honesty.
അടുത്തതായി kettle.
One day, an inspector visited his school. Children were dictated 5 English words.
His teacher encouraged young Mohandas to copy from his fellow student a word which he misspelled. He refused to do this, despite inviting the displeasure of his own teacher.
ഇന്ന് നീ മാത്രമാണ് ഒരു വാക്ക് തെറ്റിച്ചത്. ഞാൻ അപ്പോഴേ നിന്നോട് പറഞ്ഞതല്ലേ അപ്പുറത്തെ കുട്ടിയുടെ നോക്കി എഴുതാൻ വേണ്ടി. എന്ത് ചെയ്തില്ല?
ഞാൻ കോപ്പി അടിക്കാറില്ല സാർ. കോപ്പി അടിക്കുന്നത് തെറ്റല്ലേ?
Yes, though he was an ordinary student, he had strongly embraced high values.
रघुपति राघव राजा राम बधिर पावन सीताराम.
In May 1883, the 13-year-old Mohandas was married to 14-year-old Kasturba Makanji. His wedding was a joint event where his brother and cousin were also married.
Recalling the day of their marriage, Gandhi tells that they did not know much about marriage. For them, it meant only for wearing new clothes, eating sweets, and playing with relatives.
Mohandas qualified for college education after his matriculation in 1887. A family friend advised Gandhi to pursue his study of law in England. This kindled a keen interest in Gandhi. But his mother was not comfortable about Gandhi going so far from home, and his family was not financially sound at that time.
These problems were solved by Gandhi's elder brother, who had made arrangements for monetary support, and Gandhi made vow in front of his mother that he would abstain from meat, alcohol and women.
Thus, on 4th September 1888, he sailed off Bombay to London.
The main problem he faced there was food and language. He had a tough time for finding a proper vegetarian food, and English was an alien language for him. Gandhiji overcame the initial difficulties with his willpower. He made efforts to blend into the ways of English society.
Gandhi passed his law examinations in January 1891 and enrolled as a barrister.
He came back to India and hunted for a job. He moved to Bombay to build up a career. But his first experience in the court was a failure. Disappointed, he returned to Rajkot to make a modest living drafting petitions for the litigants. But his elder brother insisted him to go to South Africa as a lawyer for the merchant Dada Abdullah. He had no choice other than to accept it.
Gandhiji started his journey to South Africa in April 1893. He came to South Africa to finish a single assignment but was to stay there for 21 years.
Actually, this became the turning point in his life. On reaching South Africa, he was horrified to realize the condition of Indians there.
Many Indians in Africa were deprived of their fundamental rights because of their skin color. Gandhiji too experienced the horror of the conditions himself.
The incident that changed Gandhi's life forever was his train journey in South Africa. He was on a business trip from Durban to Pretoria. He purchased a first-class ticket and settled into the first-class carriage. A European passenger complained to the conductor that an Indian was on board. This white man was so reluctant to share his compartment with Gandhi. Gandhi was told to move out of the compartment, but he was not ready for that. So he was pushed out by the train along with his luggage by the railway officials.
Gandhiji spent the whole night in the station, shivering in the cold. He then took the firm decision to fight against racial discrimination. Dada Abdullah's case that brought Gandhi to South Africa concluded in May 1894. But he decided to stay there to assist Indians. He formed Natal Indian Congress in 1894, and through this organization, he molded the Indian community into a unified political force.
The Natal and the Natal Indian Congress shaped Gandhi as a leader. He sharpened and experimented his weapon of non-violence through Natals. His most powerful weapon, Satyagraha, was also experimented in South Africa in 1906.
Gandhi was a popular figure when he returned to India from South Africa along with his family in 1915.
Mr. Gandhi, will you support the war effort?
If, as a citizen, I wish to enjoy the benefits and protection of the British Empire, it would be wrong of me not to help in its defense.
Thank you.
Now that you're back in India, what are you going to do?
I don't know.
Mr. Gandhi.
I don't know.
Mr. Gandhi, one more question.
As an Indian woman, how could you accept the indignity of prison?
My dignity comes from following my husband.
Thank you very much.
Indians were fighting against British rule for freedom all over India under the leadership of many political and regional leaders. They deadly wanted a one and only leader to unite them to advance towards freedom. When Gandhiji arrived.
Gandhi was not aware of the existing conditions and key problems in India. He built an ashram at Sabarmati in the heart of Ahmedabad. A lot of people promised to live in the ashram following the principles of Gandhi.
I have so much to learn about India, and I have to begin my practice again. One needs money to run a journal.
He traveled across India, exhorted people to fight for freedom, pioneered many struggles of independence. He lived for India, fought for India, fought for India, and died for India.
The first strike led by Gandhiji in India was the Champaran Satyagraha in 1917. It was against the exploitation of the indigo farmers of Champaran in Bihar by the British planters.
Who the devil are you?
My name is Gandhi, Mohandas K. Gandhi.
Well, whoever you are, we don't want you here. I suggest you get back on that train before it leaves.
They seem to want me.
Now look here. I'll put you under arrest if you'd prefer.
On what charge?
I don't want any trouble.
I'm an Indian traveling in my own country. I see no reason for trouble.
The third phase of Indian national movement is called the Gandhian period. The leadership of Gandhiji played an important role in converting the Indian national movement into a mass movement.
Truth and non-violence were the basic ideas of the Gandhian movement. Non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, and Quit India movement were the major mass movements organized by the Indian National Congress under the leadership of Gandhiji.
There were many acts which enjoyed the civil rights and even the nationality of Indians. One among them was the Royal Act. Gandhiji called for countrywide protests against these harmful acts.
On April 13, 1919, a public meeting was held at Jallianwala Bagh in protest. The British soldiers fired at the unarmed crowd. About 379 lives were lost in the massacre and more than 1,200 were injured.
In protest, Gandhiji relinquished the title Kaiser-e-Hind conferred by the British court. During the First World War, Khilafat movement was formed to protest against the injustice done to the Caliph in the war by the British. In India, it was led by Ali brothers. Gandhiji extended his full support to the movement as he believed that Khilafat movement would strengthen the solidarity formed among Hindus and Muslims during the Anti-Rowlatt Act movement. He accepted the presidentship of All India Khilafat Committee.
Another mass protest conducted by the Indian National Congress was the non-cooperation movement. This protest was to fight against British rule in India through peaceful means. The non-cooperation movement was carried out at two levels, by boycotting and through constructive programs. The Swadeshi policy is the part and parcel of this movement. The non-cooperation movement was called off completely as the Chauri Chaura incident in 1922 violated the principles of non-violent resistance.
The Congress session held at Lahore in 1929 decided to launch the civil disobedience movement under the leadership of Gandhiji. Disobeying British laws was the core of this movement.
Gandhiji realized that salt can be used as a weapon to organize a stronger mass movement. He decided to disobey the salt law.
Accompanied by 78 followers, Gandhiji set out from Sabarmati Ashram and reached Dundee Beach by marching 375 kilometers on foot. On April 6, 1930, he launched the civil disobedience movement by taking a handful of salt. The Dundee March with its spirit united Indians and had an immense effect on the whole nation.
This salt comes from the Indian Ocean. Let every Indian claim it as his right.
On 8 August 1942, All India Congress Committee session held at Bombay launched Quit India movement. The session demanded the British to hand over all administrative powers to the Indians and to quit India.
Gandhiji's slogan, "Do or die," inspired millions of Indians and strengthened the determination to die rather than give up the goals of freedom. Many leaders were arrested.
Gandhiji and his wife Kasturba were imprisoned at Aga Khan Palace in Pune. Kasturba Gandhi passed away on 22nd February 1944 in prison. Her body was cremated in jail compound itself.
The people, however, were unstoppable. They attacked all the symbols of British government such as railway stations, lockouts and police stations. Railway lines were damaged, trains were set on fire, telegraph lines were cut, government offices were burned to ashes, workers boycotted factories, and students skipped classes.
The British suppressed the movement brutally, but they could not suppress the people's demand that foreign rulers should quit India. Divide and rule was the policy adopted by British in India. As a result, communal riots broke out all over India.
The violence between Hindus and Muslims swept India in 1940s. The Muslim League and Jinnah demanded for a separate nation for Muslims, which was opposed by Congress leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru. The League envisaged Congress as Hindu elitist group and was fearful of Hindu Swaraj.
Muslim and Hindu are the right and left eye of India. No one will be master, no one slave.
Lord Mountbatten took part in a discussion with Indian political leaders. Mountbatten worked sincerely with the goal of persuading Congress and League to agree to an acceptable plan to end the rule of British Raj.
Where there is a Muslim majority, that will be Pakistan. The rest is your India.
Mountbatten knew the art of dealing with Indian political leaders in a dignified way. Gandhiji alone opposed the idea of partition among leaders.
But ultimately, he too accepted the decision with a deep sense of sorrow. At last, after decades-long struggles of independence, India got freedom from the British rule on 15th August 1947.
It was celebrated with gusto everywhere in the country. Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, hoisted the Indian national flag at Red Fort in Delhi.
But in Calcutta, disturbed by the partition, Gandhiji was on his tireless pursuit to end the violence that had torn the nation apart. Gandhiji refused to participate in any merriment along with his protege Abdul Ghaffar Khan, who was the last person to fight against partition till the very end.
Gandhiji is dying because of our madness. Put away your revenge. What good will come of more killing? Have the courage to do what you know is right. For God's sake, let us embrace like brothers.
Brother, Bapu is already late for prayers.
Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated on 30th January 1948 at Birla House in New Delhi. He was assassinated by a Hindu extremist, Nathuram Godse, who believed that Gandhi was associating with Muslims against Hindus.
In the morning, Gandhiji walked to prayer ground. His grandnieces held his arms. Gandhiji was weakened by fasting, so he had trouble in walking alone. Hundreds of people had assembled for the prayers. Suddenly, this man rushed forward, kneeled before Gandhi, took out his pistol and fired 3 bullets. His last words were, "Hey Ram."
The assassination of Mahatma Gandhi shook India. The whole nation wept for him when Nehru announced his death through radio.
Friends and comrades, the light has gone out of our lives and there is darkness everywhere. And I do not quite know what to tell you and how to say it. Our beloved leader, Bapu as we called him, the father of the nation, is no more. Perhaps I am wrong to say that. Nevertheless, we will not see him again as we have seen him for these many years. We will not run to him for advice and seek solace from him.
Yes, he was the light who enlightened millions of people all around the world. A man with great principles and a man of simplicity. He was a real legend. He was a man with ocean of experiences, and what we presented here is a few drops taken from it. Please forgive us for the mistakes. Our hearty thanks to all who supported us. So here we conclude the documentary of a person whose life was his message. Thank you.